All right, what's up, y'all? Today is the 20th of October, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is a video on our main side. Yeah, this is titled Patterning in the Feet. I'll get into it, right? We'll do it as I do. Each of the four sides of In the Image Clothing Company I'll discuss, and then I'll talk about where clothing sits. That's our intro. And then we'll really get into this discussion. I've got a measuring tape here. I've got bare feet, so forewarning, if you don't want to see my bare feet, click away or close your eyes and just listen to the information. But I'll definitely be showing my feet here because patterning in the feet, you know. We talk about, here's a little context before even the intro. Under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, we talk about allowing the body to work. And we talk about the patterning that gets built up in our bodies. And that's really what we do here. That's really the point, is getting out of these chronic patternings and scar tissue that gets built up in the body. And I'll discuss it when I talk about, you know, what our main side really does mostly. But I've made videos titled Patterning in the Hand and Patterning in the Wrist. You know, we just talk about a lot of parts in the body where things get really bound up and built up scar tissue wise because of what we do, you know, and again, I'll discuss it here in the intro, but the importance of even Achilles tendon insertions is a video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. So we have our calf muscle here, and then it comes down and connects from the muscle to a tendon, and then the tendon connects the muscle to the bone of the heel of our foot on both sides, right? Calf muscle, tendon, bone, okay? Calf muscle, Achilles tendon, and then the insertion down here from the tendon to the bone that then allows our foot to plant our flex or point, okay? So, yeah, a deep discussion on the right Achilles tendon. That's another video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. And we just talk about the feet and potential discrepancies in them. So I'll show in this video, like what I have done in the video when I just show patterning in my own body as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, just a little over a year as of today's date into founding In the Image Clothing Company as all that it is as of now. And you know, I've shown the patternings that my body's in. I've discussed that my body was in deeper patterning than most people across the earth ever get into. Before I learned what I know out of prayer and revelation, personal experience, trial and error, and, you know, just speaking out of experience, understanding the anatomy of the human body in depth and discussing it here on In the Image Clothing Company. And, you know, that's what we do with allowing the body to work. But just some context before even the intro, I was in deeper patterning than most people will ever get into, meaning scar tissue in my body and just misalignments and problems, wearing oversized clothing for so many years, tying ropes on my body, shoelaces and drawstrings that were rotating my body because I was doing knots to the right, you know, drawstring knots with one side over the other, shoelaces tying one side over the other, but on both feet I was doing it to the right, you know, the left side over the right, and that just rotates this left foot in. But then if you put the left side over the right on the right foot, it rotates the right foot out, you know. So we'll talk about that. One of our two prerequisites is In the Image Clothing Company shoelace technique. That's in our intros. I'll talk about it, but I want this good preface before even the intro. Also, blunt, bold, raw, and real, right, In the Image Clothing Company style. I've got a little bit of like wind blockage, really wind sockage, if you will. There's socks around the mic for the sake of the wind noise, but it is what it is. You know, it's about the documentation of time periods more than trying to have it be any professional type video out of worldly standards, especially around this time, right? These documentations of we've been saying the same thing since the founding. Here's your video proof, right? This is our information as of In the Image Clothing Company. You know, it's come from us and just the founder, me, Evan Strong, my personal experience. So this is kind of like our insurance policy in a way, right? A lot of these videos at the founding dates around this time. So yeah, I'll get into it because I was just in deep patterning, you know, and even though it's over a year into me doing all that I've done under the name of In The Image Clothing Company, and before that, for a little while, a few months, you know, maybe up to even a year with certain things before, you know, the very, very, very start of In The Image Clothing Company, I was doing these things, you know, and I was learning all of this and releasing things in my body. And so it takes time, you know, and that's a good thing. That's a testament as well, just being able to watch my body transform. You know, I put the air quotes around it with my fingers, but truly it has, and it is still, you know, and continually, just as of any current day that you can see any content we make, or, you know, videos under the gift of video, which we do so much through video under In The Image Clothing Company on all four sides, and always will. I'm in this for life, Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. You can see my body change and transform, and really all that's happening is getting out of these patternings. The only way you can allow something to be is if you didn't design it, right? We're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. That's the first three of our 5-word name as a whole, In The Image Clothing Company. Our bodies just only work how they do. As I say, they're just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. And then, yeah, when I really get into the intro, I'll talk about it, but there's only one way the human body could ever work. And so any like transformation that's happened in my body, truly it has transformed from where it was, but from where it was within deep chronic patterning, it's just been rid, right? So it's not like I'm doing things to my body to get it to do something. I'm just getting it back to the only way that it could ever work. And, you know, bone spurs, scar tissue, certainly, lack of rotations that get just like stuck, you know, like tying shoes unevenly. You just lose half of your rotation from the neutral when you've got a knot just pulling your foot out away from your body, you know, just tied incorrect. And drawstrings, like I mentioned, a lot of imbalances in clothing, and just, you know, yeah, this is good context, good preface even before the intro, even with the wind noise. You know, the 20th of October, 2025, again, to show congruency, and it's a testament to the truth of what we really do here. There's no claim when I say clothing truly is the only fix to human beings' physical problems. It's the only thing physically placed on us. We're just a body of flesh and bone physically placed on the earth with gravity, right? So I've actually got a measuring tape, and I've shown that where I have under things, you know, with patterning. I mentioned the hands, but also the importance of even ears. A video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, I actually showed, you know, measuring the height of my ears. Seriously, I mean, there's so much that goes into this. The ears are essentially the jaw, right? They're just a hole between the rear of the lower jawbone and then the skull back here, and really that sternocleidomastoid insertion, which the importance of even sternocleidomastoid insertions right behind the ears up there on our skull. That's another video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. So anyway, yeah, what we really do here is, it's not about fashion, it's not even really about clothing, it's just about the human body, and we discuss the anatomy of the body in depth. And so it's great to have this context before something else that's great, which is me personally, or anybody, but, you know, yeah, getting out of these patternings. While I'm in these patternings, to a degree at least still, it's good to show some visual documentation to just show the truth of it, right? I mean, it just is what it is. The information we give, other than us just being imperfect, I mean, what we talk about is just universal truth. It just applies to all humans on the face of the earth for literally ever. You know, so that's why, I mean, I call it the gift of video. It's so beautiful to be able to document things. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's do the intro. This is our main side, okay? And on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, that's what we do. We allow the body to work by getting out of these chronic patternings and scar tissue. The human body has a center line: the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw naturally stabilizes not only the head, it's got musculature coming from the lower jaw up between the eyes and ears and to the crown of our head up here. If you can see this, as we clench the jaw, musculature all the way up above our ears here flexes. But the jaw stabilizes the whole body, not just the head on top of it, but down to the feet, out to the fingertips. Our jaw has to stay centered. We talk about the jaw so often. Eating and drinking with the left hand, just really meaning non-dominant, a video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company to keep the jaw centered. We have a lot of videos though. I could reference 2, 3, 4 more at least right now specifically about the jaw, but I won't right now at least. But we have to keep the body centered. On Earth's gravity, there's a center to the body, and musculature connects from the outside of the shoulder into the sternum in the front on both sides, right in the center, and then from the outside of the shoulder into the spine in the center of the rear of the body on both sides. Earth has a center of gravity that it pulls down on everything with, and our body's center line needs to mesh with Earth's center of gravity, and then we place clothing on our bodies, okay? Clothing has to stay centered, fit correct, where I'll talk about here when I discuss where clothing sits in a minute, give or take, and be made from 100% natural materials. Unnatural materials are new, just decades old as of today's date, and the body's only natural. Natural, neutral, and normal are synonyms within the human body's functioning. There's also a neutral position to every joint, as well as a center line to the body. There's just a neutral, like the wrist here, straight out from the pinky finger down and out the end of the forearm, right? The outside of the forearm, down and out the pinky finger. And then we've just got motion all outside of the neutral. There's neutral to rotations, from the fingertips to the elbows in the forearms, a neutral, then internal rotation, from the neutral, external rotation. From the hand up to the shoulder as a whole, internal rotation from the neutral, and external rotation from the neutral. From the feet up to the knees in those lower legs, internal rotation from the neutral, and external rotation from the neutral. From the feet to the hip, the whole leg in its entirety, internal rotation from the neutral and external rotation from the neutral. Straight out from the pinky toe forward, just like straight out from the pinky finger is the neutral for both the hands and the feet. So there's no way to stretch the human being and benefit from it. You'll either stretch on one side of the neutral farther than the other side and then not be able to get to the other side, or vice versa. You'll stretch too far the other direction and not be able to get to the opposite direction of that. There's just a neutral to everything in the body. It's impossible physically, legitimately, despite what anybody tries to tell you, to train the human being. You just can only allow it to work. Everything's there. It all has to stay activated as a whole. You can't drag around dead weight. Everything has a role to play. It's just what it is. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's that simple, really. And I mean that in an encouraging way, because if there was never anything placed on the body, it would just work. If the body was never placed in this man-made world that's placed onto God's natural earth, then it would just work. Designed to work. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So yeah, I mean, stretch comes with these unnatural materials that are just decades old as of today's date, and stretch goes the opposite direction of the only way muscles could ever work. All musculature in the body only contracts to work, meaning shortening, okay? But then there's opposing muscles, so one side shortens while the other side relaxes, and then vice versa, the first side relaxes while the other side shortens, right? There's no stretching that can benefit you, though. It will very much damage your body. It's the whole thing about, well, if it's not working, why are you doing it? You know, you keep stretching, and then you keep stretching, and then you keep stretching. Well, we need to allow our bodies to work, and if we allow them to be in their neutral positions, they just will be able to. Anybody can have anything. Deformities, surgeries, amputations, birth defects, in any way. You can have your own unique body. I don't just mean everybody's body should just work exactly perfect, right? But there's a universal human design. So, yeah, clothing, all right? We talk about the anatomy of the human body in depth, though, here. I mean, we just really get into it. I discuss things in such depth to where there's no possible dispute to what we say under In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, but there you go. I mean, standing, walking, sitting, eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration. We just talk about all the things we do in our life because we're within our bodies, right? The only thing that we have, an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and it's just the truth. We can gain anything in this life that can also leave. But once our bodies leave, so do we. That is our physical life, is our physical bodies. So, yeah, it's a gift from God. We need to allow it to work. I mean, we need to allow it to just do what he designed it to do. And really, a lot of times what that means is getting back to that, from being in patterning, from years, decades, a lifetime just about for some people. And these patternings are reversible, right? And we show the truth of how to do these things freely. A lot of free modifications in clothing. You never have to purchase our products, but we'll always have free modifications to allow your body to work. And then we'll have In The Image Clothing Company clothing always as well, right? To just not alter the body, not have to have any modifications be done to it from the factory. It'll just be good. At least these three things always as the main focus, right? Staying centered, fitting correct, and being made from 100% natural materials. Yeah, there you go. All right. That's a lot of what we do on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. Now, we've got another fourth of us, and we do the same thing. In The Image Clothing Company Poodles. We label what we do there as letting dogs stay natural, but it's the same thing as allowing the body to work. We just word it different because it's a whole unique fourth of our company, even though it's encapsulated with all that we are as all four of the sides of In The Image Clothing Company. So we specialize in purebred standard poodles. We breed them. We register them properly, breed them properly, and advocate for doing these things to be a good owner of dogs and to keep less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes. You know, planned litters and the health of dogs and being able to keep good, healthy bloodlines of dogs going generation after generation. We can do that by registering our dogs to know the genealogy of our dogs. You know, we talk about feeding for dogs, hydration for dogs. For human beings, we talk about keeping collars centered. That's a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. One of our free modifications is one of the biggest things you'll do in your clothing if it's there to allow your body to work. In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification. In the collars of our tops that go around our neck, well, as you can see here if you can, there's just musculature and tendons opposing the center line going through our neck that goes through our tops, and our tops have to stay centered. And if there's a little seam in our top, then our top collar, right, where the seam would be, wouldn't be centered. And so In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification is one of the biggest things you'll ever do for your body, meaning just keeping your collar centered, and that's how we allow that to happen when there's just a discrepancy in material, when there's a seam in the collar that needs to sit evenly around our neck. So with dogs, right, dog collars and leashes and harnesses sometimes are so imbalanced. And then it goes to the jaw for human beings or dogs. If our collars are imbalanced, right? How clothing affects speaking, workouts don't help the jaw, the importance of the corners of the mouth, the jaw and the sternocleidomastoid, the mechanics of the human jaw. These are videos under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. Earlier when I said I won't reference right now, when it was then, right? More videos about the jaw. Now we've got a lot of videos about the jaw. It's huge. And the dogs are the same, you know, collars placed around their neck, but then they have leashes, and that's different than we have as human beings, you know. So they need to stay centered because it's just really altering the dogs. You know, it can take legitimately, no exaggeration. I know that if you don't understand this or haven't thought about it before, it might seem like, it couldn't do that, but it can take years off the life of a dog just to have an imbalanced collar on it all the time. It's pulling on its spine, on the neck where the collar is placed, and that goes all the way to the tip of its tail. Dogs are wagging their tails, you know, and that goes through their whole spine from the other end. We have to keep our dogs unaltered. That's really what it means to let dogs stay natural, is just like us human beings in a modern man-made world, just not getting altered by it, you know, being in the world and not of the world, like we're commanded by God. So yeah, I mean, we do a lot with dogs in a lot of ways. We give information on things that apply to all dogs, not just poodle specific, except for very specific things that would be poodle specific. But you know, interacting with our dogs as the owners, because the height of dogs versus the height of the owner. You know, our body is getting down to our dog's level to play with them or take care of them. Holding leashes naturally to keep that neutral wrist, rather than our bodies being pulled out of their only neutral position while we're walking our dogs. You know, we debunk a lot of myths on why dogs won't listen very well, you know, and a lot of behavioral things. We really get into it with dogs. In the state of Utah here, the United States of America, we've got beautiful mountains. We've got a lot of beautiful nature, parks, rivers, lakes, wherever we do them at the individual event that we have. Poodle parade events, not parades, but bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size, as the only dogs allowed, but that's a lot of dogs when it comes to mixed poodles. Yeah, poodle parade events, a lot of it will be, I word it like family reunions, just hanging out, having a good time. Where I do, I'll give information there on letting dogs stay natural, but we have all of our free videos that we post with all of our free information, so check out what we do. But it'll be really great, poodle parade events. And then we can work with people in all the ways that we do through dogs as well. Shelters, animal shelters, organizations helping the health of dogs. We talk about dogs in the ways of service dogs, emotional support dogs, therapy dogs, and there's a lot that we can do, a lot of organizations and companies we can work with through what we do because of what we do under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles. So stick around for it. It'll be huge, a lot bigger than could even be expected by me, although I know a lot of what to expect. There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, which I'll talk about that fourth of our company, but titled An Intro to Poodle Parade Events, just as one of the things that we do through poodles, poodle parade events, and that gives a lot of context. So let's move there. Another one of our fourths, In The Image Clothing Company podcast. We give deep discussions on life. Really what we do is have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. You don't have to be religious though or believe in anything, but we're all human beings placed on the same earth. We're all designed by and have only one universal God, Jesus Christ. So yeah, we're on episode 170 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast as of today's date. And I just give a lot of deep insights on life, man. It's a really great place to be. So check it out if you'd like to. In The Image Clothing Company Music, another one of our fourths, we do a lot with music. A lot of what I do is show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter that neutral wrist. And then what we talk about just in daily life as well is these natural hand arches that correlate with the arches in our feet that grip inward, opposing the center line and keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity, right? But those hand arches, yeah, our feet need to be unaltered for them to be there, but also just fingernails and toenails need to be clear to the tips of our fingers and toes, fully supporting them to just give the fingers and toes strength. Your natural strength will be so absolutely just inhibited and limited and taken away from you if you cut your fingernails too short. We cut fingernails and toenails as well, relatively flat on the tips, so we don't roll out of that neutral wrist position, but then you can round the corners just so they're not sharp. But yeah, sizing and setup of guitar. I do a lot of lyricism geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with all the music. I do fingerstyle guitar, I strum guitar, I sing. Metronome Madness is one of the things that is there on In The Image Clothing Company Music, where I do rhythm and poetry, spoken word, off-the-top freestyle type rap. Yeah, episode 33 is what I'm on as of the last one of In The Image Clothing Company Music's Metronome Madness, okay, up until today's date. So that's a lot of what we do on each of the four sides of In The Image Clothing Company, and then just, as time progresses, we'll do more where we do, and you'll be able to have more context. We do so much, like I'm saying, and always will, under the gift of video, because In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, a lot of it can just be if you want to just watch cool videos about dogs, behind the scenes breeding of poodles, watching the litters be born, where we can catch that on video, just a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, through the avenue of video, man, I love it. And so poodles, purebred standard poodle puppies, when the litters are available, applications always on InTheImageClothingCompany.com. But we'll have a very strict screening process on who these dogs go to because, advocating for doing things proper, we want these dogs to be at the homes they go to for life. So yes, one thing I didn't mention, dog products. Collars, leashes, harnesses, similar things, always available on InTheImageClothingCompany.com with human being clothing, just to not alter the dogs, right? Same intent behind our clothing. So there you go. Where clothing sits for everybody is the same. Man or woman, tall or short, skinny or fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. All that means is that you're just a human being. Clothing has to sit in the same location to not alter the body. Our pants have a location where they sit called our natural waist. Above the hip bones, but below the lowest ribs, is our natural waist. That's where we bend side to side at our spine, and that's where our pants have to sit to not alter our bodies. There, they need to be higher in the front, just slightly, than the rear. Okay, slightly higher in the front than the rear for the waistband angle, because that's just how our bodies would be neutral and vertical on Earth's gravity, keeping our musculature activated, okay, and the body just working as if we never had pants on while wearing pants. Then we have tops that we wear. Seams on top of our shoulders need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. Our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just where they connect mechanically to the very base of the rear of the skull and along the spine. So button-ups naturally have a band that will just sit behind the shoulders, or they have a band of material that will just naturally sit behind the shoulders. But then single seams of our tops, that's where that dreaded collar seam modification under In The Image Clothing Company comes in. But we just need to keep those seams evenly behind the peak of our shoulders, okay? Our shoulders follow shoulder seams, okay? The edges of our tops, those seams need to mesh as close as we can get to just the edge of our shoulder joint. There's a joint of body parts as well as a joint of just material, okay? Meshing the shoulder edge seams right at the shoulder joint is the ideal, as close as we can get to that. Otherwise, we're having to try to work around our tops and our bodies are being very much altered. Two things we have as prerequisites under In The Image Clothing Company to not alter the body. Firstly, when we weave ropes across the top of our feet, well, that's what we're doing. We call them shoelaces, but there's only one way all the mechanics of tendons, muscles, ligaments, and bones in the feet are shaped. The grip arches inward, opposing the center line of the body, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. So, In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is what we title that. And then we tie shoes just to keep them on. We have to tie shoes evenly on both sides, over toward the center line of the body. You know, like I was mentioning, I was 24 years old until I started tying my shoes evenly. So a lot of that, I mean, bones as we're growing will literally grow imbalanced, and I'll show some of that within my feet here. Bone spurs, like on the Achilles tendon here, where tendons connect to bones, they'll pull on the bone and cause a bone spur. And I'll discuss that as well. That's what I mean with, you know, the video titled A Deep Discussion on the Right Achilles Tendon Insertion. Yeah, bone spur I have here, and that's a big part of this measuring tape. Actually measurement wise, physically actually different sized feet is what I have currently. Still over a year into In The Image Clothing Company, truly. So yeah, we have to tie our shoes evenly. That's one of the biggest things, you know. And how drawstrings affect body mechanics under In The Image Clothing Company, we show the slipped lap knot, tie the tail end to the center, and then you've got just a horizontal rope around your waist rather than rotating your entire pelvis and your whole body into this right-handed patterning, okay? But secondly, our other prerequisite under In The Image Clothing Company is to remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere a tag's placed in clothing, it's either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate, and then the body's trying to do compensation, but everything's there with a role to play, so there's no compensation that can possibly be had in the human body because that just doesn't work. Everything's got its own unique role, all right? Activated as a whole. All the body's there. It's all got to be working to play its part. So we get into this, well, there's our intro. But one of the things I didn't really mention so much in the intro that I often do, and it's a big, huge thing to say, so much so that I said big, huge, the right-handed world. You know, our bodies get pulled off farther away from our center line on the right side, so the musculature is elongated or pulled on. Again, stretching is damaging to the body. It connects to the center. Muscles only pull from endpoint to endpoint and contract. Never stretch your body, but we give the context under In The Image Clothing Company, the actual truth of how the body really works. Seriously. Don't believe me, as I say when I do, right? But truth is truth, and we really just discuss it so deeply. We just don't know what we don't know, and that's fine. That's why we're here in The Image Clothing Company. For life, right? Me as the founder of Evan Strong. I'm not the founder of Evan Strong. Me, Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, I'm personally here for my lifetime, okay, to do this. So, yeah, the right-handed world, our bodies get pulled off to the right side, so the musculature on the right gets elongated and pulled on, rotated externally away from the body, and then dropped lower. Products designed to be used for just one hand are designed to be used with the right hand, just because 85%, give or take, of the population of human beings are right-handed across the earth. And then ropes introduced to the body, if we are tying right-handed knots, like I've discussed in the intro here and up until this point in this video, that just puts our bodies into this right-handed patterning. Oversized clothing in any way, and then clothing patterns themselves to a degree are right-handed, and they get shipped across the earth nowadays in ways that just couldn't have happened in the past through technology. And that can be a good thing and also a damaging thing, okay? Because gravity will just pull any play in our clothing. Like, tops are like a cage for the shoulders. They should just lock our shoulders in place. That's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. If there's play in our oversized clothing, it'll just fall with gravity to our dominant side, being the right side for the majority of people, right? The right-handed world. So there's some context on the feet, and we'll get into this. Because in this right-handed patterning, me until I was 24 years old, for example, tying shoelaces over toward the right side on both feet, rotating my whole body to the right, okay? And so from my center line off to the right, everything's being pulled away and externally rotated rather than being neutral. And then there's internal and external rotation from there, okay? There's always a neutral. Remember, the human body always resides in its neutral. There's no possible way to train a neutral. It's in between two other things. In between internal and external, there's a neutral. It's physically impossible to train the human body. You can only and only ever will benefit from actually allowing your body to work. We give such deep context, there's no claim. It's just so different than most people's approach. And then most people's approaches just don't work. That's the point. There's only truth. And the truth is, God designed it. That's how we allow it to work. Same with the dogs. God designed them. That's how we let them stay natural. Okay? So, patterning in the feet. There's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled The Height of a Gripped Arch. When arches grip in the feet, they get taller. Okay? They also come in. So our feet gripping an arch will come in to the neutral straight out from that pinky toe. And then when we walk, since our toes are pointed like an arrow toward the center, right? The shortest toe is the pinky toe, the farthest out. And then as it comes in and up, our feet point like an arrow forward to those big toes. And we roll evenly off of this slant of the tips of all of our toes. So our feet actually roll in when we walk, okay? Just because of the length of the toes, the mechanics of the feet, through the neutral ankle, up the leg, and how that neutral pinky toe is straight forward out the end of the feet, okay? Yeah, I love this. I love this. I'm in this for life. Evan Strong as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Okay, stick around for the poodles. Check this out. Same thing for dogs, I mean, they get into chronic patterning too from imbalances with things placed on their bodies. So, the feet. You'll hear often people talking about different sized feet. Well, the point with the height of a gripped arch is the right side of the body, if we're tying it in an incorrect way, like both sides of the body tied in a right-handed knot, right? Left side over the other, like this, meaning left side over the right. That's okay for the left foot because that's toward the center line of the body. But then the left side over the right on the right foot, that's away from the center line of the body. And now you're off to your right like this. The height of a gripped arch, well, arches grip inward and then they elevate. And so we talk about how the entire right side of the body up to the tip of the head and the tips of the fingers can be a gripped arch's height lower. So people's face will droop off to on the right side, lower. The shoulder will be lower on the right side. The whole body on the right side. There's an airplane, I understand the noise. There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled Choose the Right, and the right side of the body is just about the only side that we need to address when it comes to ridding these chronic patternings and scar tissue because of the right-handed world. So we talk about things like the right shin bone here, right? dorsiflexion of the right foot. A video talks about that. I've talked about the Achilles tendon quite a bit in this, and especially on the right side. The pelvis crest back here and off to the right side of the pelvis crest coming around here. The right elbow, the outside of the right forearm, the right wrist, the right pinky finger, right? I mean, the right ear, when I talked about the importance of even ears, the importance of even nostrils, a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. You know, the right side of our nostrils, we get this deviated septum, or the center of our nose comes off to the right in this right-handed patterning in the right-handed world. Clothing, right, truly the only fix to human beings' physical problems, the only thing physically placed on us. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we talk about on the right side of the body. So, I mean, that's really what it means, eating and drinking with the left hand, or non-dominant, is just getting back to the center from being chronically off to the right. What it means to lean left, a video under the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. I went in depth with a lot of rotation that has to happen, and just musculature's activation, and muscles that need to be able to actually release and loosen, meaning relax, right? To actually get to our left side. Muscles on our right side have to just relax. Yeah, there's a lot to this, right? This is In The Image Clothing Company. Again, I'm in this for life. Just to be clear, Evan Strong, as the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, that's what I mean, you know, documenting all this information as of the dates that I am to show this is our information. I mean, this came from us, out of personal experience from the founder, me, Evan Strong, right? So, yeah, date marks, I love it. Your life as a journal, an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. It's a lot of what I talked about in there, you know, just documenting, date marking things. There you go, okay? So, the feet. What we'll have is a longer foot if it can't grip and arch. It's like the hand. You know, we watch the hand gripping in, and look, my hands go from being the same size here with one palm on top of the other, but then as I grip my hand, my right hand here on top of my left hand, it gets shorter, okay? Because it grips, and there's that height of an arch, right? The feet and the hands are just about the exact same thing. There's that neutral now straight out from the pinky when we can grip and arch. And then just the shape, I mean, the top of the hand here is shaped like the top of the foot, like In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique, just the way that that shapes the upper of our shoe and those laces, because we're lifting our feet off the ground whenever we are, but also we're lifting our shoes off the ground from the top of our feet, right? So that shoelacing technique has to be nothing to do with us. In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique, it's just the only way the top of the human foot is shaped. And then the mechanics of it too, with the way that those ropes just interact with each other as we move our feet in our shoes. Okay, cool. In The Image Clothing Company, I'm in this for life. Evan Strong as the founder. I mean, I just want to make it as clear as I can. This is our information since the very beginning, since the very founding date, over a year ago from today's date. We've had the same information, the same shoelacing technique, the same free modifications. Been discussing things the same. My understandings have just deepened, you know, and that's just how it will be for the team always too. I mean, this is our information. That's what these videos are for as of this time period. Also, yeah, I mean, they can just live on forever. This could be the only video I ever make on these things, as long as I discuss them deep enough and thorough enough to where I would never need to like add information to it, right? Yeah, to make it as full as it would need to be for the video that it is the point. But if you can't grip an arch, then you will just have a longer foot, right? When you grip the arch in your feet, your foot shortens, heel to toe, and it rises off the ground, okay? So tying right-handed knots on both feet, your right foot almost certainly will end up just being longer. And I don't know how well I really need to actually like show this so you can see the measurement yourself through the video, but I measured my feet right here right before I started filming this, and my right foot, because of this bone spur that you can see here if you can on my right heel, where this Achilles tendon comes from the calf muscle down, connects to the heel of the foot, right? We put a lot of focus on this. A lot of focus on breaking up the scar tissue on the shin bone here, especially just almost only the right side of the body if you're right-handed. But again, we all live in the same right-handed world regardless. Although if you were tying left-handed knots on both feet, it would be mostly your left side. Okay, this would be the problem. And if you've been tying shoes evenly since you were tying shoes first, then you're good. Well, with what would come directly from uneven shoe tying, you know, and that happens. Some people have always been tying their shoes evenly, but some people have not. And I'm one of those some people, if you will. But yeah, my right foot here is right about, well, what I got earlier was, man, I mean, it's somewhere between 10 and 6/8 or 10 and 7/8 inches long. And then my left foot is not as long, truly. Still, again, over a year into In the Image Clothing Company and doing all that I've been doing to rid chronic patterning and scar tissue in my body. Yeah, my left foot here, somewhere around 10 and 5/8 or 10 and 6/8. Man, I mean, yeah. My right foot's about 1/8 of an inch longer than my left foot. Just for context, that's not all that, well, I mean, that's quite a bit, really, when it comes to the feet. 1/8 of an inch is this much between my two fingernails here, okay, right here and right there. That's about how much longer my right foot is than my left foot, okay? Truly, and really the big point is, well, yeah, the scar tissue and bone spur on the heel, which I think you can see pretty well still, and people who have clicky ankles, usually it's the right one that will click when they walk. Mine clicks every now and then, you know, but anyway, I know the shadowing is kind of different just because of the location of the sun, but if you can see any discrepancy there, you can tell my right heel has this bulge off the rear of it. It's just because as my foot and ankle have been tracking, right, the importance of even ankle flexion, a video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company, within a knot that's just rotating my foot wrong, incorrect, opposing the way that it would grip and arch, right, being tied